Hello, friends. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Sunday morning? You are joined by me, Jennifer. Comics will break your heart. You're also joined by this beautiful lady over here, Mars, otherwise known as that comic girl.
Good
And
morning.
because he always seems to know, you also have my cat Luna here, who jumped up here 2 minutes ago because
He
he knew I
always
was
knows
about to.
when you're filming.
He really does. Like he was asleep in the bathroom and then immediately came out here. So, Sunday morning with Jen, Mars, and Luna. So, um, thank you everyone who is here. I want to say, like, if you're awake, um, for me it's 9 o'clock. For you it's noon, but you live your Sunday best life. So if you want to sleep until noon and wake up with two ladies talking comics, here we are. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to say hello to a couple people in the chat. First, I want to go ahead and say hello to Hero and the Kid. I don't know if it's Will or if it's Shauna, but hello to either of you, both of you. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning so far. I'm also going to say hello, Travis. Good morning. Afternoon for you, so you must be East Coast. Or maybe, I don't know, overseas. Who
Are we
knows?
gonna start feuding this East Coast West Coast vibe? Like,
Ooh.
we start doing that?
We should, right? Um, as a former East Coast person from Florida, I feel like there's a lot of like there's love for the East Coast in my heart, but at the same time I know I can make fun of it.
True.
Especially
True.
being from Florida, because
Yeah,
Florida's
I was gonna
wild.
say Florida's not real. Florida doesn't exist.
Yeah, like it's one thing to be like East Coast, it's another thing to be Florida coast, because that's a whole nother country.
Also, can I just say, because Hero and the Kid pointed out my Venom shirt, I
Mhm.
literally picked this out at a thrift store for like $3. So it's my favorite thing I've ever found ever.
I miss doing thrift store shopping. A lot of the thrift stores here, like they're open, but I just haven't gone in since the
Yeah.
pandemic. Let's go ahead and see who else is here. John, hello, in the shop and listening. Looking forward to the chat. John, you've left some really, really nice comments on some videos that seriously just absolutely warmed my heart. I think I speak for Mars as well.
Yep.
That we both really enjoyed the comments that you left. So thank you so much for your support. And it looks like Kelly is here. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Okay. And then we've got Ruben Guzman, Cowabunga fam. Thank you so much for
I'm
being
excited.
here.
We've got a good crowd this morning, and I just think it's
We
going to be a
do.
really great show. Like, this is a hell of a way to kick off 2021.
100%. And this is kind of like our first official, like officially weekly show since I
Yeah.
asked you to go steady with me doing Sunday morning chats. So this is like the first Sunday of like really digging in. So today we're going to go over, December series wrap ups. Pretty briefly because there wasn't too much. We're also going to go into what's on our pull list or what we're maybe picking up this
Because it's a
upcoming week.
huge week coming up.
It's a huge week, and especially looking at last week was kind of a small week, and then this week is just absolutely huge. Spending that DB money, that dumb bitch money.
Give me money.
And then we're also going to talk a little bit beyond this week. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with Future State, but there's obviously like, things that we're excited about beyond that. So I'm really, really
Exactly.
excited to go in to all these things. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about December new series that came out in December. Like I said, there weren't too many things that came out in December, at least that were like big. I think like one of the biggest mainstream events was the King in Black event.
Mhm.
So we did see a lot of this like Knoll King in Black stuff going on. I'm not a huge like Venom fan, anything like that. I don't really read it, but I did actually start
Neither am
reading.
I say as I'm wearing the shirt. Fake
If
Venom
you
fan, y'all.
but it's still a really cool shirt. Um, but so I didn't really know too much about Venom, but there was this cool like kind of like Knoll guidebook to what's going on, and I think going into the series that helped me a lot. The King in Black series is also doing what I think the Ten of Swords series is doing really well. So if you've been reading any of the like Hickman universe X-Men stuff, you know that you've got the Dawn of X. So there's like New Mutants, Hellions, Marauders, all of that going on. So you kind of have the series spread across several different events. And King in Black is, I feel, doing something similar because we get the regular King in Black series, but we also have like little tie-ins to like a couple of different things. So I feel like it's making me read titles I wouldn't normally pick up.
Which
so
is
that's
exciting.
Interesting. There's some that I liked, some that I didn't, but I have been liking the main King in Black series, so I'm definitely going to continue reading that. I know the one, I feel like we've talked about it like every single week since it came out.
We have.
The Homesick Pilots, and
it was good. It was just, oh my God, it was so good. And like it made not really having a lot in December worth it, I think. Like it really made up for it, you know. It's so good, and I can't wait for the next issue. So yeah, if you're not reading it, you need to go pick it up. That's our plug.
I think one of the main reasons why I feel like I need to keep bringing it up is also because I don't feel like it's getting enough love. Like it's getting enough love between us and, you know, several of the other people that we talk to. But when it comes to like big mainstream, even people who like indie comics, I still feel like maybe if it didn't resonate or
there's something about Homesick Pilots that doesn't feel like an Image Comics title. Like it honestly feels like this should have been like a Volt Comics title or even like a Black Mask comic title. So the fact that it's under Image, I feel like they're not even pushing it that much, and I feel like they should be pushing it more, but it's definitely a really great book. Do not sleep on it. First issue is out, second issue on the way, so you still have plenty of time to get into it.
For sure. I'm sure, you know, there should be some shops that still have it, so definitely a recommend. One of the other series that I feel like I enjoyed a lot, once again, I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about this one, but Post Americana that was published by Image. Maybe it's just because it's maybe people are feeling that like post-apocalyptic fatigue. Like we maybe feel like we're living in post-apocalyptic times, so we don't want to read a post-apocalyptic book. But it felt like Mad Max to me in a like Mad Max Cronenberg. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Don't say that because you know Mad Max is my vibe, and now I'm gonna have to go and pick up this book.
You have to pick it up. If you can't get it, let me know because I think I saw some at my shop this last week. So I'll pick up an extra copy. But seriously, Post Americana was a lot of fun. The main character didn't necessarily give me Imperator Furiosa vibes, and she's like one of my like babes. I love her.
It's my she's our patron saint. Like, hello.
Yeah. Of course. So maybe like Tank Girl, Mad Max type vibes. It was really good, really enjoyable. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a trade weight, but you know me, I like to get my comics weekly and spend all that money on it. So, one of the other titles I know that we were just kind of talking about, speaking of indies, Picture of Everything. I really enjoyed it. I liked the like deep horror of it. It was a really it was kind of gruesome. Like there's some really bloody parts in it.
It had Penny Dreadful vibes to it. And normally that's my jam. Like that's one of my favorite shows, and I love gothic horror, but I read a review copy of this a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't even finish it. I was just that kind of bored with it. Not to say that it's a bad book. It's just I feel like it's a very dense book. And we all know how I feel about dense books. I always go for books that show more of like character personality versus, you know, a mystical plot or something that like, you know, makes you really, really think because I'm a dumb bitch. But I couldn't get into it. But I see like you like it. A lot of other people really, really like it. And it's just been this sort of hit and miss thing for me and Volt Comics lately. I mean, me and you agreed and disagreed on Devil's Red Bride, where you really, really liked that series. I couldn't get into the first issue, but I feel like with that, it might be more of a trade weight for me. So maybe it's going to be the same with Picture of Everything. It could also be, too, that maybe I read it at the wrong time. I know we've discussed that really can play a factor into whether or not you like a book, as if you're in a bad mood and you read something, it's going to sour your taste of the book. Wise words from Mars and Jen.
Exactly. There was like 1 week during the pandemic where I think I read like 15 books, hated every single one of them, mildly enjoyed one. So definitely your like mindset can have a huge impact on that.
Oh, absolutely.
I read it so in the show, and he's in the chat, Hero and the Kid, if Will or Sean is in the chat. So we did a show on Friday, and we did Fire Guy Ryan joined us, and he actually said that Picture of Everything is supposed to be a sequel to the Portrait of Dorian Gray. So I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
And so I found that out after reading it, and not necessarily because I enjoyed reading it regardless, because I did get like, now that you say, Penny Dreadful and like Jack the Ripper type vibes. So I did enjoy it, but I do want to go back with the perspective of the Portrait of Dorian Gray.
And that makes sense, because I've never read Portrait of Dorian Gray. I know I've seen movies, and I've seen, he was in the show Penny Dreadful, so I have some experience with Dorian Gray. But now that you say that, I will agree that it felt like something was missing while reading Picture of Everything. It felt like something had already happened, or something that was going on, and I felt like I was struggling to catch up. So now that you've said that, it makes sense, and maybe, like you said, it's deserving of going in and taking another look.
So I think once again, I've never read the actual book, which surprises me, because I feel like that would be totally something I would have read in high school. So maybe I need to
it's our aesthetic.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I need to go back and like read the Spark Notes, or maybe watch, like, if someone has a YouTube video that's like, hey, like, here's Picture of Dorian Gray, or maybe I'll just, bite the bullet and read it and do one of my own, and then go into Picture of Everything and see if that makes me enjoy the book even more. So the other book, there's a couple other ones, like Sword came out. I think so. Sword was like a post the 10 of Swords, post 10 of Swords series that started. I didn't enjoy it. Maybe it's because I just came off of 10 of Swords, but I don't know. I didn't enjoy Sword nearly as much as I enjoyed any of the 10 of Swords series. I also read Night Hunters and absolutely loved it.
Who published that?
It was it's actually published by Floating World Comics, which is a local comic book store here, which is like, I'm like pointing because it's like a couple blocks that way for me. So they published it. So it's like very, very indie, but it's done by Alexis Ziritt, and I can't remember who else did it, but Alexis Ziritt did Space Riders, which was just like cosmic Ghost Rider, heavy metal motorcycles in space, just wacky. And Night Hunters feels like that, but with Judge Dredd vibes. So I totally enjoyed that. Yeah, it was really fun. The only other book that like came out last month in December that I really loved, and I'm very excited to see more. It's like a 4-issue run, but MODOK. Patton Oswalt wrote this, and he's a huge comic book fan. And he's also voicing MODOK in the new animated series. So
I'm excited for that show. It's going to be funny.
I really hope that they use the comic book material to go into the show, because in this series, MODOK is basically, because MODOK's just an evil asshole, and in this you see a little bit of a sensitive side with him, because he's having hallucinations about a family who he's never had. So
we got some like Vision vibes to it.
Yes, 100% Vision vibes. So I feel like, I've always had a soft spot for some of the villains who I don't think are villains, like Magneto. Like, Magneto's not a villain. Magneto is right.
Mhm.
Um, so
He
I
is
think
right.
that seeing Magneto was right. So I think seeing MODOK in that way is pretty cool. I I really enjoyed it, and I love Patton Oswalt. He's a cutie. So
And he's going to be doing, and we're going to talk about this later on in the episode, but he is going to be doing the upcoming Black Hammer Visions. Is it Dark
mhm.
Visions or it's just Visions? But he is writing the first issue of that. I almost said episode, but yeah, I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what more he does. Usually I'm like, I don't like celebrities writing comics because you could have just given that to a comic book writer, but he is such a nerd and he is constantly pushing for people to buy and purchase comics on his Twitter that it's like, you it's not your fault that you got famous before you could write a comic book.
Oh, 100%. And I think like there's like really in the world of celebrities, I don't think that there's like Patton Oswalt doesn't have too much of like a like big name draw.
He's
But
not
you're right. I
Keanu
do
Reeves.
think he's not Keanu Reeves, and let's not even go into Berserker right now. But um so I do think that Patton Oswalt has put the work in, so he's definitely he's got that like nerd
Absolutely.
street cred. So totally excited for him. One, reading his MODOK. Two, reading his Visions, Black Hammer Visions, because I love Black Hammer.
Love it.
So this week, we mentioned it's a pretty big week for comic book pickups, like especially
It's
thinking about last week was the like fifth week, and fifth weeks, like the last Wednesday of the month, can usually be a pretty slow, like really light week.
yeah.
So it wasn't too big, but this week is pretty heavy, and we've got a lot of things going on. What's anything particular that you're excited about for next week?
Well, we're getting the start of Future State, which is just huge. I can't believe that we are already here. Like, I thought I
Mhm.
had more time to prepare for this, but
Yeah.
Future State is literally banging on the door and being like, "Hi, I'm here. Let me in." So I know this week. Hold on, I had everything pulled up and ready. We're getting Future
Oh,
State Wonder
one
Woman number
second.
one, which is Yana Floor. Like, I'm really, really excited to see Yana Floor. I'm really excited to see Joelle Jones back on
Mhm.
interiors because she hasn't been doing Catwoman for a while now, and her action sequences, man, she draws an action sequence like everything else. And Kelly, big same. DC's gonna drag us down, kicking and screaming.
I
I
really just really I want to mention this because I remember a couple months ago when DC pulled this BS whenever they laid off a whole bunch of people just all of a sudden, and then they pulled this stuff right in the middle of a pandemic where they split from Diamond,
Yep.
basically, like in my opinion, fucking up the world of a lot of comic books shops. And I'm always going to be on the side of comic book stores,
No,
like
I
in any
agree.
fight, like so the fact that DC is like pulling me back in, and that I am willingly agreeing to spend $8 on each book, and I'm gonna pick up like 5 or 6 this week. Like, DC, you're pulling me back in, and you better do good by me.
Well, I think the only books you just like made me like run into a panic attack, so I had to like double check. But I
Yeah.
think that the only books that are $8 is I know Batman is $8. I think Detective Comics might be $8, and then there's a Superman. There's like one or two Superman titles. Luckily, Wonder Woman
Okay.
Yana Floor, that's only $3.99. So for the most part, we're seeing $3.99 and $4.99 depending on the variants you get. So because that's the reason I'm not picking up Batman, despite being so excited for those backup stories, because we're going to see a
Hmm.
Batgirl backup story from Vita Ayala, which we've talked about how much we love them as a writer and a creator. We're also seeing a Gotham City Sirens backup story as well. And I'm just like, I want to read these, but I don't want to spend $8 when I could just buy a
Hmm.
trade in like 3 months for like $15. I don't have that dumb bitch money right now. All right,
Oh,
DC, I'm already spending enough money. So Wonder Woman Future State is the only thing that I'm picking up this week. Are there other titles that you're picking up with Future State this week?
all of them.
Oh my God, you're
Yeah.
I,
Um, you know, I got to do that. So yeah, I went into my shop last Wednesday, and they were like, "Hey, We got them. We got Future State
We
in.
got the
Like we
future
got them
state.
early. So I think a lot of stores ended up getting them early. Some people, it seems, actually like their shops let them get them early.
Yeah, there were
That's a
some
big.
shops that I
Mhm,
think didn't realize it, or maybe they just
mhm,
didn't care.
mhm.
I don't think my shop got them in because they're a smaller
Got it.
shop, but they're not supposed to be giving them out. And I feel like if a shop is
Yeah.
caught, they could get into a lot of trouble. So if you are one of the lucky people who got it from your shop, don't post about it because they find a way to track back to which shop you go to. And that
Mhm.
could lead into a lot of trouble. And at the end of the day, we're here to support our local comic shops and not DC
Yeah.
Comics, even though we're dumb bitches who are giving all of our money to DC.
Yeah, so 100% this future state better be good because the fact that, a good maybe like quarter of my like DB money is going to be spent on this, like it better be good. They better make it worth it. And I know that when it comes to putting books out early, what I've heard, and this is what I heard from when I was working at a comic book store,
Mm-hmm.
Hero Trader back in Florida, is that what Diamond will do is that they will actually like hire people to go into comic book stores and
Yep.
like they have a whole checklist. So like Diamond will hire people to go into the stores and have this like checklist, like, okay, was the staff friendly? Was
They
the
have
music
secret
playing?
shoppers.
Or they have secret shoppers, exactly. And these secret shoppers will go in and specifically ask for a title that comes out next week. Say, like, hoping that you say something like, oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to sell it, but here you go. So, like, Diamond will send secret shoppers to do that. But I don't know if DC is doing the same thing
Because
because
they're
I know
away
that
from Diamond.
because they're
Yeah.
away from Diamond. And I know that they were even like, if you get them on Monday, like at one point, I remember them saying, like, if you get books on Monday, just go ahead and put them out Monday or
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and do that. So I had no clue that Diamond specifically will use secret
And
shoppers to go and.
they get tricky too because a lot of so here's our comic book insider knowledge as two lovely ladies who worked in your local comic book shops. So aside from DC Comics, because they've gone and done something completely off kilter and different, typically comic shops receive their comic distributions from Diamond either on a Monday or Tuesday. You then have those 2 days to sort through everything, take in your invoices, split up what is already pooled for your subscribers. And then usually what most comic shops do, and I know I did this, I don't know about your shop, but when I did comics, I would actually put them out on Tuesday, but I
Mhm.
usually hung up a curtain over what was coming out this week. Is I
Oh.
would hang up a curtain and be like comics available Wednesday or whatever, because it's just too much work to walk in and have people either already lining up or whatever. I just want to be able to go and pull off the curtain. Okay, there you go. But we would have people be like, hey, I know this comes out tomorrow. And they would pull some BS story of, I'm going to be out of town or I'm going to be working late. So I'm not going to be able to get my books. And I really want my books. And I'm like, I can't. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they get really,
Mhm.
really savvy with that stuff.
They do, but I think that most comic shop owners are, savvy. They're ahead of the game as well,
Mm-hmm.
and they know because um, I think comic shop owners and people who work there understand the business and they understand who supports their shop. So if you're someone who comes in, is this is your first time in and you're asking about a title that comes out, they know not to give it to you. But if they know you're one of the Wednesday warriors and you come in every single Wednesday, you hang out for a little bit, you talk about the titles that you like when I was there on Wednesdays, there were people, I'm like, okay, I know I saw this person, this person, this person, this person,
Mm-hmm.
this person. That person's about to walk through the door. Let me have their stuff from their pull ready. So comic book shops, they know if you're just even speculators, because we would have people who would call Wednesday morning before the shop opened and be like, hey, do you have the first appearance of Batman's dick? Shout out to you, Batman Damned. So we know whenever people are
No.
speculators, and we know if you're a regular, like sometimes the shop will hook you up and like maybe put something in your poll and let you get it Tuesday. But for the most part, like, don't play games. You can't
Yeah,
hustle a hustler.
my shop's pretty good at that. Like my shop knows I am usually in the shop by 4:45 every Wednesday. And the one week I didn't is because I was unfortunately in my car accident. And you bet your ass I got a call at 5:15 from the shop owner being like, "Are you okay? You're not in the shop. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in the hospital. I just got into a car accident."
Oh,
Oh, what? But that's why I love comic book shops, because it's like you said, they know. It's like they know certain people's schedules. Like my shop knows I am there at 4:45 because it's when I get off work and that's how long it takes me to get there. And I saw the same thing when I was working. I knew the people that were coming in at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock were coming in on their lunch break. And that's part of the reason why I love comics and I love being a part of a comic shop. And the one thing I really miss about it, to be honest.
I agree, because there's a sense of community and that, I don't know, it's special. Even though it's toxic sometimes, I do think that it's special.
Absolutely.
So anything else? I mean, like, I seriously, like, I have a huge list. Like MODOK 2 comes out this week, so I'm definitely going to be picking that up. Let me see
Crossover
here.
3.
Crossover 3. I do think, you know, I'm really hoping for evidence of my theory, my Charlie Day, there is no Pepe Silva theory, that Solid Blood.
We figured it out. We cracked the code. I think it's going to be Spawn.
I think
it's going to be Spawn.
In the Image, I don't want it, not solicitation, but for the, if you go to Image website and you look at Crossover, the description is basically like, you're going to want to pick up this episode or this issue. If you don't pick it up, you might just go crazy. And so I'm like, what is it? So I'm very curious to see what it is. But I do think that it's going to be very Spawn heavy, or lots of shout outs to Spawn.
Well, when you look at, so the thing that's driving my Spawn theory home is when you go onto the Previews World website and you look at the variants for Crossover 3, because there are a lot of fucking variants for a third issue, which makes zero goddamn sense. All right, listen, Charlie Day board coming out. There's no reason to have 5 or 6 variants for an issue 3 of an Image comic title. But the variants that they are showing, because not all of them are shown, which is a pet peeve of mine. I'll get into that later. But a lot of the variants that are shown are Spawn related, or it's Todd McFarlane directly drawing Spawn. And they have like the one like incentive thing is it's like she's reading a comic book on the cover, and different variants have different comics on them. So maybe it's not just Spawn, because I know there's one for Spawn. I think there's one for Walking Dead.
God Country.
There's one for, I think there's one for Invincible. So maybe it's Walking Dead and Spawn. Who the fuck knows? Maybe Michonne's gonna come in and chop off Spawn's head. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm like excited for this because they've been hyping up issue 3 since this series started. Like issue 1 was out and Donnie Cates was already tweeting, well, issue 3 is what you're really going to want because it's going to get insane. I'm like, well, fuck, what is it? So I'm like hyping it up and I'm so excited, but I'm like, watch it be something so dumb and so silly. It's going to be like the Crossover promo all over again, where it's the ... and then it's just a comic called Crossover. Like, I'm expecting the worst and hoping for the best. That's what this is with Crossover number 3.
I think that that's kind of the way to go into it, is just go and that's how I went into Wonder Woman. I went in with extremely low expectations, almost none, and I enjoyed it. You know, was it the best movie? No, but I didn't expect a lot out of it, and it worked for me. So.
So there's that comes out this week, and then Star Wars High Republic number 1 starts this week, and I am both excited and at the time very like because I don't like the Jedi. They bore me. I think they're a bunch of assholes. Give me rebel scum or die. Like, but at the same time, I'm excited because this is a new era of Star Wars we have not seen yet. And it feels like with Star Wars being around for 40 plus years, we've seen just about everything because everybody wants to do something with the Skywalker saga. So I'm really excited to see an entirely new era for Star Wars. The fact that Charles Soule is on it is very exciting. I know Phil Noto is doing the covers. Is he also doing the interiors?
That I'm not sure of. I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah. As someone who, I lost a lot of faith in the Star Wars movies, especially with the last of the trilogy that came out. But the comics have been doing it for me. Excuse me. And especially with Dr. Aphra, like I cannot say enough how much I enjoy Dr. Aphra. I wish that I had been reading Star Wars comics back then, because I wish that I would have been able to pick up Darth Vader 3 that has her first appearance. So I have a feeling the way that Marvel's going to be doing this is, I do think that in High Republic we're going to see a lot of first appearances. I don't necessarily want to be that like speculator that's like, buy this book, it's going to be hot and you can flip it. But
if you're a Star Wars fan and if you think that you're going to want it later on, pick it up now. It's very similar with like what we talk about with Future State, where we're not what's the word, agreeing with you picking up and flipping a book, but if it's a book that you think you're going to want the first appearance of, if you're going to want the first appearance of Yana Flor, Red X, the new Flash, any of these characters, if you have a remote interest in them, pick up the book, because later on down the line it may be out of your hands and you might not want to spend the $100+ on a book, whereas you could have spent the $3.99, and that's a lot. It's a way smaller risk spending $3.99 and then getting the book you want, or $3.99 and then just being able to be like, oh, well, I paid $3 for it, no big deal.
Yep, exactly, 100%. And I definitely do want to go into, especially in a little bit, go into Future State and some of the speculation on first appearances and the speculation on what exactly to expect from some of these, because there's a lot.
There's a lot.
So other than that, like I do have like a pretty huge list. Crossover ink blot, getting it together. Eternals one comes out, so there's, I think, like a new other than the original, and then the Neil Gaiman, and
the early reviews on that are looking really, really great. A lot of people that I know have already read it, say that it's a really great place to jump in. If you've never even heard of the Eternals, it's a really great starting point. So that's exciting. And it's got a million covers.
And I get where people are like, well, I hate reboots, but honestly, reboots are what brings people in. Because if you tell me like, well, I have to read 100 books in order to be able to pick up a new copy, that's not going to bring people to the shop. Let's go ahead. Reboots are here. You're going to have to put up with them. So we get a reboot of Eternals, and that means more people are going to get into comics. The more people who get into comic books,
Eternals. It's not like they're rebooting Spider-Man or Captain America. It's kind of like, I feel like it may be like a Guardians of the Galaxy style treatment, where they're going to turn these characters that nobody knew about and turn them into like household names again. So that's exciting to see new eyes get onto new characters and things like that. So I might pick that one up too.
Yeah. And especially with some of the variant covers that I checked out, probably going to get multiple ones. So we'll see what happens there. So other than, there's obviously a lot more on there. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Future State. Because there's how many books that come out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books come out this week with Future State. We've got a Batman book. We've got a Flash book. We've got a Harley Quinn book. Superman, Swamp Thing, and Wonder Woman.
And we all know which one Jen's excited for, y'all.
I'm so excited for Swamp Thing. I love Ram V as a writer, and I absolutely love Swamp Thing. I was reading a little bit about the because if you don't know like what Future State is is basically this like excuse me, 2-month period where like everything is being paused, and then we're getting this like state, and then it's going back. So I'm really excited that not only do we get Rom V writing Swamp Thing, but he's coming back in the other one.
And you couldn't have asked for a better writer on Swamp Thing, honestly, because Rom V, I know we've talked about his work a lot lately with The Savage Shores, and then you loved him doing Blue and Green, but it feels like he really knows how to nail horror, and not just horror, but like monsters and creatures and fantastical beasts, and honestly, that screams Swamp Thing. So honestly, I might pick that up too as somebody who's never read Swamp Thing, just because I really do love Rom V, and that's the other thing I do like about this future state. And I like the fact that they are only 2 issues. Is it's like going back with what we said with Eternals, where it's not necessarily a reboot, but it's not a massive commitment, so people can go into shops, pick up these 1 or 2 issues, and either find new characters or discover new characters without having to worry about picking up, 15 or so plus issues. It's 2 months. If you're interested in a character, I definitely recommend picking it up.
Mm-hmm. I know that you're probably most excited about like Wonder Woman. Do we,
really
other than maybe like the first appearance of, because we're getting first appearance of Yara Flores. Am I saying that Yara Flores?
I think is it Yara or Yana Flora? I thought it was Yana.
Yana. Maybe it's Yana Flora. So that sounds more right. So that sounds correct.
You're right. It is Yara Flora.
Yara Flora. Okay. So when it comes to that, one thing that I did read, or what it looks like, is that so this is her first appearance. We don't really know too much about the character. What it sounds like is going to happen is that there's like a journey to the underworld. Do you know much, like anything other than that, or?
I don't know anything about the series other than she's just this new Wonder Woman. So it's kind of like a Wonder Girl stepping into her own role. So I'm really curious to see how her backstory plays into it, especially because she is a Brazilian woman, I believe. But I do know that Joelle Jones has already teased that Yara Flor, what we see from her is not going to stop with Future State issue 2. And while it hasn't been solicited yet, it probably won't be solicited until, I'm thinking, April or maybe even May. I've got a feeling she's going to be getting her own ongoing series by Joelle Jones again. So it's going to be a nice teaser taste. And then there was also rumors circulating around that the CW already picked her up for a television show, which that kind of bothers me, because it's like, how do you pick up a character? Well, no, it's the idea of how do you pick up a character before they've even debuted? Like, her comic hasn't even come out. Yara Flor was literally announced, and then CW was like, oh, well, we're doing a show. And I'm like, before you know if people actually like her, before we know anything about her, we literally have a face and a name, and you already want to make a show. So I know a lot of people are going to be picking up the book for that reason alone and speculation, but I've got a feeling she's just going to be a pretty big character.
I think so too. I think I was taking a look at the covers for the post Future State. Is there a name for future state, whatever it ends up being?
There is. They call it the DC, I believe it's something Frontier. It's a play off of Darwin Cook. I'm gonna look it up while you ramble.
Yeah. So I did see that the series, because it's being written, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's being written by Becky Cloonan, the new Wonder Woman after Future State, being written by Becky Cloonan, and it does look like Yara Flor and Nubia are going to be there with Wonder Woman. So,
which is exciting.
Yeah. So
and it is being called. Oh, sorry. It is being called the Infinite Frontier.
Infinite Frontier.
So it's kind of like New Frontier and Infinite Crisis had a baby. So that is what we are seeing with the new DC Comics, is the Infinite Frontier. And I really do like that little homage to Darwin Cook, because he really was such a fantastic creator. I had the pleasure of being able to meet him before he passed away. So, and he did so much, not only for comics, but for DC in particular. So the fact that this almost feels like a tribute play to him, it makes me really, really happy.
Yeah. Same here. And so anyways, that's like this week. I know that, like I said, we're getting, a Batman book, Flash book. It sounds
that
like
book seems exciting. I think I think I'm gonna have to pick it up because, and we'll talk
Yeah.
more about this when we get into 2021 releases. But Harley Quinn, I'm not a Harley Quinn fan, but with what's going on with DC, with Future State, and with the Infinite Frontier, it's got me a little bit excited. And you mentioned before who's doing the art for Harley Quinn DC State. Do you want to share with the class?
Yeah, so from what I understand, and I honestly don't know if it's just covers or if it's going to be interiors, but Demio, I can't remember their first name, but they do the work for We Only Find Them When We're Dead. So if you, because I know that that's kind of like a hot book put up by
And it
Boom
was the
Studios.
prettiest book of 2020, so
Yep.
it's
I
gorgeous.
loved that, like the kinetic artwork style that's just, it moves a lot, but it's almost like watercolory. It gives me personally, it gives me a lot of like manga vibes. So I'm very excited about that. The basic premise of from what I understand, what I got from it is like Harley Quinn is imprisoned by the magistrate, but will she stay imprisoned for long and team ups and things like that. So if it's even anything close to, maybe this is a controversial opinion, I actually really enjoyed the Harley Quinn movie. So if it's anything like the Harley Quinn movie, I'm here for it.
Where she gets to be a little attitudey and have her own style and state. That's really awesome. I also like with Harley Quinn, Black Mask is involved, and we all know he's part of the scumbag boyfriend army. And let me tell you, when I say that they gave my boy a glow up, he's got this cute feathery looking cape and a crown, and I'm like, listen, my boy is getting what he deserves. So for that reason alone, I might have to pick up a Harley Quinn book. Listen, I've picked up much less or much more. I don't know how to phrase that, but I've picked up way lamer things for characters that I love, like Hush and Black Mask and things like that. So, I mean, why not pick up a Harley Quinn book?
Why not? Yeah. I know that this is probably gonna make the like fanboy, I don't know, whatever. But I'm not excited about Flash. Like I'm still gonna pick it up just to read it, and maybe this book will convince me to love Flash, but
Yeah, I'm not a Flash fan either, but I don't think is the Flash solo series, is it the same Flash that is going to be in the Future State Justice League? Because I know that in Justice League, that Flash is non-binary, which I think is so fucking cool. I love the fact that we are bringing more non-binary representation into DC Comics. We've already seen it with Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad and the Airy being the first ever non-binary character from the publisher. So the fact that they're doubling down with another one makes me really happy because, listen, representation matters. But I agree with you. Flash doesn't do anything for me, but this non-binary Flash has me interested a little bit. And not to mention their design just looks hella fucking dope. Their design is so cool. And that's the one thing I do love about Future State is when we look at these designs, when we look at Yara Flor, when we look at Flash, when we look at Aquaman's daughter, her design is really, really cool. I'm so excited to see what's going on with Future State in that aspect. But again, a little hesitant. We're going to keep it at arm's length, but I'm excited.
Same. I know that from what I read, it's going to be this Future State book is going to be Wally West oriented, but we're also going to get Kid Flash, and we're also going to get the Flash Gang. So Oregon wants to know, is Manga Vibes contagious? I think it is because I actually have been reading a lot of manga lately, which is kind of weird to me, but so yeah. And Chaos says Jughead was asexual in Zdarsky's Lightheaded, or in
Jughead, I remember that. It was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. As I several of the people who I know who are non-binary, I was talking to them about some non-binary representation in comics, and I feel like Jughead being like asexual. I don't know if Jughead's non-binary, but like being asexual, I feel like that's forgotten about, especially because he Jughead's not asexual in the show, the Riverdale show. So
it's terrible, and it makes me sad, but it's okay. We always have comics. But yes, the new Flash is non-binary, and from what Jen said, it doesn't sound like that Flash is going to be featured in the Flash title. So if you are curious to see more about them, definitely pick out Justice League, because I know that they are a big part in the Justice League 2-part tie-in.
Yeah. So I feel like we ran over all of the DC Future State titles that are coming out. You messaged me and you were like, okay, these are the things that are like coming forward, like these other things, and I was like, I need to do more research. Like,
I started off with like 4 titles, and then I was like, wait, there's 3 more, and then I was like, wait, there's 2 more, and it just ended up becoming this massive list, because I sit on previews. Like, I literally wait for previews to go online. This is my shameless plug that previewsworld.com is your friend. No, this is not sponsored by them. But if you don't like going into your local comic book shop, if you don't like paying $3.99 for the big magazine, previewsworld.com has the entire magazine uploaded on their website, and it's updated constantly. So definitely check that out. It's going to be your friend. But there's a lot for 2021. Like, not even touching Future State, not even touching DC New Frontier, because there are a couple titles from New Frontier I'm excited about. But there is a lot of stuff coming out for 2021. Are you ready for this?
There is.
Should we jump in?
I'm ready. You know, last night when you told me about some of these, I'm like, I'm not ready, and I had to do a ton of research. But I'm so pumped for some of these. So yeah, go ahead and run down a list for me.
Yeah.
And really quick, before you do that, I want to go ahead and say Joe from Far Sector is the Green Lantern in Justice League, which I'm very excited about because I love Far Sector so much. Never gave a shit about Green Lantern before until Far Sector, and I don't know why. Because Far Sector is science. It's so science fiction.
It doesn't feel like a DC book at all. It almost feels like a Vertigo book, which, I mean, to be fair, it is a Black Label book, so that kind of makes sense there. But so with Joe being a part of the Justice League, it's insane because it almost felt like she was so self-contained and so far away from, she was a Green Lantern, but there was never any mention of her in comics. So the fact that she is coming into, I guess, what we consider main continuity makes me really excited. So for new titles, I guess let's just start right off the bat with DC, since we're trailing off from Future State. So March, we start to see what we were talking about, the Infinite Frontier. We get to see all of our new titles resume. A lot of these titles are coming with new creative teams. So we already talked about how excited we are for Wonder Woman, which is Becky Cloonan doing the writing. Now, I wish she was doing the art as well, but I will accept her on writing because Becky Cloonan writes comics like no other woman out there. I mean, she is on tier with Gail Simone at this point. I absolutely love the way that she writes characters.
I love Southern Cross. That is one of my favorite sci-fi books from Image Comics, I think does it.
Image Comics.
I'm trying to look back here at my Image. Okay.
So we've got that coming up. We've got Detective Comics, which normally I wouldn't be excited for, but Detective Comics, we are seeing Mariko Takamaki. I hope I said that right.
I think Mariko Tamaki.
Mariko Tamaki as the first woman since Devin Grayson writing a mainstream canon continuity Bat title, because Devin Grayson wrote Gotham Knights back in the early 2000s, which they considered a mainline title, but when you go and think about it, there's been no mention of Gotham Knights. When you think of Batman mainline titles, it is Batman and it is Detective Comics. So the fact that we are seeing a woman write Detective Comics for the first time ever makes me so fucking excited. And what makes me even more excited is it looks like we are getting more from the Bat family. And I know we've talked about it before with DC Rebirth. That's what we really liked about Detective Comics in Rebirth, is because we saw Batwoman, we saw Stephanie Brown, we saw Tim Drake, we saw Cassandra Cain. Feels like we are going back to that. So we're going to be seeing more Catwoman and Huntress, which I'm really excited about, to see Huntress finally interacting with the Bat family again, because it feels like she hasn't since Rebirth began. We are getting Batwoman back. We're getting Stephanie Brown. I mean, the whole Bat family is coming together. So I'm excited. And also Dan Mora, I believe, is doing the art on Detective Comics too. Yep. And that art's going to be fantastic. So we are very excited for Detective Comics. And then surprisingly enough, I am personally really excited for Harley Quinn post Infinite, or I guess in Infinite frontier, because I have seen preview pages. You should definitely look up preview pages for Harley Quinn, because we are getting some manga vibes from this, and it's going to be so cool and so stylistic. And listen, I complained for months and maybe even years that all DC comics look the fucking same. And we are finally getting DC comic books that look different. We're seeing Dan Moore on Detective Comics. We're seeing the artist on Harley Quinn, who I can't think of. But we're also seeing Nightwing being handled by Tom Taylor and Daniel DiNiccolo, who did the art for Suicide Squad. So if you've seen any of my personal videos ranting about Suicide Squad, you know that the one thing I always talk about is how sexy Daniel DiNiccolo, or no, that's not Daniel is it Daniel DiNiccolo? Or is that no, that's Daniel DiNiccolo is Seven Secrets. I think it's Bruno Redondo is doing it with Tom Taylor. Sorry, I got excited there. Bruno Redondo is doing the art for Nightwing alongside Tom Taylor. But either way, they draw men very sexy. And I am excited for men who can draw sexy men to draw Nightwing. Because listen, if I can't have Nicola Scott drawing Nightwing at all times, then I guess Bruno Redondo is going to be a nice second. I'm just really hesitant about that one, because it feels like for the past couple years, DC Comics doesn't want Dick Grayson to be Nightwing. They want him to be everything but Nightwing. I'm tired of Rick Grayson. I'm tired of Grayson. Let the boy be Nightwing. Let him wear the black and blue with the tight booty. Just, that's all I ask for. So those are the things that I'm excited about for DC Comics. I know you're excited about Swamp Thing, and we said Ram V taking over for the ongoing Swamp Thing. Is there anything else from DC Comics that I missed on that?
So I think that like you pretty much covered all of that. The only other thing that I think that I'm pretty excited about, not a huge like DC like Justice League person. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I think that we might be getting Brian Michael Bendis back on that title. That's just something, and I don't know. I know that it was like kind of in the rumor mill for a little bit. I don't know if it's still accurate, but I love Brian Michael Bendis as a writer, even though I'm more familiar with his like indie stuff as opposed to the mainstream titles. So I'm just excited about that.
Is exciting.
So, yeah.
So I guess we'll just jump right over to Marvel, because Marvel is short and sweet. Because for some reason, new releases for Marvel I don't really connect with. I don't know why. And with Marvel, especially in January and February, we're seeing a lot of King in Black continuing. So it's a lot of crossovers, a lot of tie-ins. However, the one thing that we are getting in March from Marvel Comics that I'm really excited about, Alien. I didn't think I would be excited for Alien. However, hear me out, y'all. Dark Horse previously owned Alien and the Predator, because I'm telling you right now, a Predator series is probably going to be announced in around May. I'm pretty sure that they're going to do the same thing. So the way that the Alien release is going right now, and this actually starts next week, all of the Marvel mainline titles are getting Alien variants. So we're seeing different characters fight off against the xenomorphs. And there's a really cool one for Captain Marvel where it basically makes her look like Ripley and Jones. So that's a cover I think I'm going to pick up just because it's cool shit.
100%. I think when I saw these, I'm like, I don't know how excited I am for all of these titles because I'm not reading it, but those are definitely going to be cover buys for me. So cannot wait to see this.
And you heard it here first. Pretty sure they're going to do the same thing with Predator in about, I'm going to say like April, May, they're going to do Predator covers. And then the month after that, or 2 months after that, we'll get a Predator story. So the reason I'm excited for Marvel to take on Aliens is because Dark Horse initially had Predator and Alien. But y'all got to remember, Dark Horse also used to have Star Wars until Marvel bought that license. And then after that, it felt like it was a golden age of Star Wars comics. We saw some of the best stories from Star Wars being put out for years. So I'm very hopeful because I'm thinking we're going to see a very similar treatment with Aliens and with the Predator, where we're going to get not necessarily cheesy, campy stories, because I love cheesy, campy stories, but I feel like we're actually going to get some really great, intense stories from Marvel. these universes that don't often get a whole lot of love. So that's the one thing from Marvel I'm excited about.
I think you're right. I think that we're going to get maybe, do I want to say light-hearted stories? But I definitely think they're going to be intense, but they're not going to be as like horror-ish. Like it's not going to
I
be
wouldn't
like
mind that
terrifying.
though.
I also wouldn't mind because I love like a good, I mean, I love horror, even if it's like trash, I love horror. But I do think that it's going to get the Marvel treatment where it's going to be fun. It's going to make fun of itself and kind of be self-aware. So I am definitely excited for that. Um, let's go and see here. So Bendis, as of late, we'll see what he does. Justice League. They didn't, but a license. They actually bought Star
They
Wars.
did. They legit bought
Yeah.
Star Wars, and I feel like this is
Yeah.
similar with what they did with Fox, and then getting, Alien and Predator. But that's all I'm excited for with Marvel. I know that you tend to read a lot more Marvel in single issues. Is there anything you're excited for Marvel?
Not anything other than that I can really think of. I usually just kind of like go like 2 weeks ahead and I'm like, what's coming out? Okay, like I'll just go ahead and pick it up. There was one thing that you sent that I was really excited about, but there was another Star Wars book that you described. Maybe this is more for like March, and it's going, yeah, tell me about it.
So you actually read my mind. I was gonna do my little segue and be like, speaking of Star Wars, so Yen Press, we don't have an official release date yet, but Yen Press publishes manga. They recently just did an adaptation of Star Wars Princess Leia, Princess of Alderaan. Now, this was originally a novel written by Claudia Gray, and then they adapted it into a manga. And listen, Star Wars and manga, honestly, is like a match made in heaven. I don't know why we don't get to see more of this, but apparently we are. So Yen Press recently announced that John Tsui, who wrote Sarah and the Royal Stars, is writing to adapt Guardians of the Wilds as a manga. I am so excited. Listen, this is probably the last prose novel I ever read, just because I love Chirrut and Baze that much. And I thought there were pictures in the book and illustrations, but maybe I was mistaken. However, the fact that it is being adapted as a manga makes me really, really excited, because as somebody who struggles to read novels now because I'm so used to things being visualized for me, I'm really, really excited for it. There's no date yet for it. They just said it's coming out in 2021, but I'm super excited. We're also going to be getting Star Wars Leia, Princess of Alderaan Volume 2, I'm assuming, in 2021. But what makes me really excited and what makes me like think a little bit is these are now 2 novels that Yen Press has gone and adapted. And I'm here hoping that we are going to see more adaptations of these Star Wars novels into manga. And if they are, hear me out, please adapt the Ahsoka Tano novel into a manga, because I would give my whole life, my firstborn, whatever you want, to see Ahsoka Tano as a stylized manga character. Like, so that's something to definitely look forward to. But this is such a great book. Like, this was originally done by Greg Rucka. So you know how
yep.
it was done by Greg Rucka. It's also subtly queer, because, if you watched Rogue One, there were definitely some very queer undertones between Chirrut and Baze. This kind of solidified things. So I'm hoping Yen Press is just like, yeah, let's just make them gay as hell and solidify it in the Star Wars universe. But like, that might be one of the things I'm most excited for, because I love Star Wars content. I love Star Wars manga. I love Rogue One, so it feels perfect for me.
There's a lot of, or there's a couple of different comments about High Republic that's coming out this week. Lost Stars by Claudia Gray was adapted into manga.
Lost Stars is very, very good. It is literally good guy from the Rebels and bad girl from the Empire, and they were childhood friends, but it's literally lovers to enemies. So hear me out. It's perfect. I don't even think Lost Stars was adapted. I think Lost Stars was just an original manga. Like I may be mistaken, but I believe it was an original manga. But either way, I want more Star Wars content. Like, give me
Mhm.
all, just inject it. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
And once again, like as someone who is not very excited about like Star Wars movies really, and like I've watched all of them, but the last, anyways, I won't get into that. So the comics have been doing it for me, and the fact that I've been reading so much more manga, it's like they're such easy reads. And I think for a new generation, I think that like the younger generation does tend to read more manga. I think that this is going to help people connect with Star Wars in a way that they've never been able to previously. Because I do think that shows like the Clone Wars, like the animated series, these are helping like younger kids get connected to the series, to the franchise, that just watching the original trilogy never did. So I think doing it, if they can do this and they could come out with like, this line, I definitely think that that's going to help readership with this franchise and ultimately make it succeed.
Absolutely. And I just like too that we're seeing, a wide variety of medium for Star Wars. We're seeing video games, we're seeing TV, we're seeing movies, we're seeing graphic novels, manga, real novels, not prose novels, I guess. I don't know, but we're seeing everything. So it's like it doesn't matter what type of hobby you're into or what type of content you like to consume. There is a way for Star Wars to get into your brain. So
Hmm.
we're always here for more
And
Star Wars.
and especially like I love these big ideas. I love these big universes, and Star Wars is so much more of a bigger universe than what you do see in the movies. So like even thinking about the Guardian of the Wills, like this religion and these
Mhm.
like people who are like keepers of this, like going into that lore, like that just hits all the nerd buttons for me, like going into all of these things. So I
Oh,
really
exactly.
appreciate that. Hmm.
So that
What else
is
you got on your list?
I have so many on this list. I hope you're ready. All
Yeah.
right. So at this point, the rest of it is just straight up indie comics. I didn't really give it a particular order, so I guess we'll just kind of jump around from
Hmm.
publisher and release date. So the first one I have on here is Stray Dogs from Image Comics, which is supposed to come out in February. This is probably the original, like not original, but the original series that I'm most excited for. So Stray Dogs, I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but it's new from Image Comics. It comes out in February, and they were literally describing it as Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of the Lambs. And it's like, how the fuck do you
How is this?
describe something like that?
Like, I just imagine like a news headline like study finds that dog food contains dogs, and like the who I don't know who's the writer on this.
I have no
Um
idea. I did not write down any of the creators. I believe it's a husband and wife duo though who's doing it.
okay.
But the art style of the book, it's very Don Bluth, cartoony animated style, but it's going to have this very serious and dark vibe to it. And we've talked about this again before, but like I love seeing animals have like a sentient being in mind.
Hmm.
Like think of like Animosity, where those animals literally have thoughts and feelings and actions and consequences. And I feel like the Stray Dogs is going to be very similar. It's very like heavy thriller, maybe murder mystery type thing. I don't know. It's literally just this cute little dog who ends up in a house somewhere, doesn't know how she got there, doesn't know who anybody else is, and is now, I guess, trying to escape. So I know I'm picking up both covers for it because cover A is really, really cute. But then also, two, the variants for both issue 1 and 2 are horror homage variants. So the first one is an obvious homage to Silence of the Lambs, and then issue 2 is another horror homage. I just don't know what that one is for because I'm not as familiar with horror.
Got it. I just want to see like a Lady in the Tramp moment where like, and then maybe just, yeah.
And maybe just
So
eat. That'd be
yeah,
funny.
just keep
Speaking
going.
speaking of dogs, Dead Dogs Bite from Dark Horse,
Hmm.
which finally got resolicited. Okay, so it finally got resolicited for March. Dead Dogs Bite is a original series, originally supposed to be from oh wow, I'm blanking. I can think of his Twitter handle, Tyler Boss. It is written and illustrated by Tyler Boss. I'm a huge fan of Tyler Boss. If you read Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, which was from Black Mask. He did the art on that with Matthew Rosenberg on words. And he just has a very unique style of cartooning, because that's what I call it. He has a very cartoonist style, which I absolutely love. And Dead Dog's Bite, I can't even tell you what it's about, but I just love Tyler Boss so much. I love how creative he gets with his comics. That I'm like, I'm going to pick up this book. And this book was literally solicited last year. Well, it was announced last year. It was solicited earlier in the year, I think last March. And then I guess maybe with the pandemic, something happened where it just never released. And now it's being resolicited. So that is a book I'm really excited for. Not only that,
and that was called Dead Dog's Bite.
Dead Dog's Bite. There's also a variant cover by Ian Bertram, who I know that you really, really like.
I do. I love Little Bird. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there is a Ian Bertram variant, and I just like seeing Dark Horse do more independent titles, because it feels like Dark Horse, when I think of Dark Horse, I think of them as the comic book license company. So they tend to do a lot of video game stuff. They had Aliens and Predator for a while. I know they did BioWare stuff, but it doesn't feel like they do a lot of series on their own, except for when we think of like their imprint Burger books. We had Matahari, we had Invisible Kingdom. These were series that thrived and were really great. And then when I also think of Dark Horse, I think of Sword Daughter, which I don't like Brian Wood, but I really, really love that series. And I just love seeing more from Dark Horse doing their own independent stuff as aside from licensed stuff. So Dead Dog Bite.
When I think of Dark Horse, I think of like Hellboy, and I think of oh my God, Black Hammer. Like those are the things that I think of. And Dark Horse is right around the corner, like 20 minutes away from here. So absolutely like crazy.
So speaking of Dark Horse, since we're just gonna segue right into that, look at that. Cute little segues. We talked about this previously, but Black Hammer Visions, I'm really, really excited for. So Black Hammer Visions is a 12-issue miniseries. From what it seems like, is it's going to be either it's an anthology series for sure, but whether it's each issue is its own individual story, or whether it's going to be condensed into like 1 or 2 issue stories. Either way, I'm excited. Patton Oswalt, we saw, is doing the first one. Jeff Johns is doing the second one, which, why are we still giving him work? But I guess whatever. But we're also seeing other writers like Mariko Takamaki is going to be doing an issue or 2 in there as well. And I love Black Hammer Universe. I think it's one of the most amazing things to come out of comics in the past 10 years. This massive world that Jeff Lemire has managed to create, the fact that it's gotten spin-off after spin-off and good spin-offs. Like, it's not just like cash grab spin-offs. It's getting really great spin-offs. We're seeing really great continuations. The fact that his own little comic book inspired superhero story was able to cross over with DC Comics and the Justice League. I feel like that's every like 12-year-old boy's fantasy, is these characters that they create in their rooms being able to connect with the characters that inspired them. Like, that's insane. So I wasn't going to pick up Dark Visions, but then I read Barbalian, and that series was absolutely wonderful. And now I'm like, fuck it. I feel like I'm just going to pick up every Black Hammer spinoff series at this point. Like, I don't even fucking care anymore. Like, let's just do it. So
let's just do it. As someone who is like so sold on like anything to do with Black Hammer, because like I feel like the way that I sell the Black Hammer universe is I sell it as like, do you like superheroes, but you feel like you've read every single like superhero story that tries to be dark and gritty? Like, I feel like Black Hammer is so like, you're reading your favorite superheroes, but you're not reading about them, but you're reading such emotional stories. Like, that's just the main Black Hammer universe and with what's going on. So like, I would say if you like crossover and you haven't read Black Hammer, like, definitely go ahead and read Black Hammer. But Colonel Weird Cosmagog and Barbalian,
so good.
Like, every single week get me.
To play off of what you said with Black Hammer, is I feel like Black Hammer has different layers to it. So if you don't like comic books, if you haven't read comic books but just want to experience one that's superheroes without having to worry about like 40 years of fucking lore and history, Black Hammer's great. It's also great where if you do like comic books but you want to try superheroes but again don't feel like dealing with that, it's great. You know, a great way for you to be introduced to new characters. But then you've got that third layer for people like us where we know these characters, we know these histories.
Yeah.
So when I see Barbalian, the red Martian from Mars, you know, and then him saying, well, why are there green Martians? You know, seeing that Golden Grail saying Zafram instead of saying Shazam, you know, I kind of see where all of this inspiration is taken from. And, you know, as somebody who loves comics, who connects with these characters, like I said, it gives you an additional layer where if you do know these characters, you can see that inspiration, but you can still enjoy it if you've never experienced these characters. So that's why I think Black Hammer as as special of a universe as it is.
100% agree. And Jeff Lemire, like I don't necessarily want to call him an underrated writer, but I don't think that he gets the love that he deserves. But I love almost everything that I read by him. So
exactly.
What else do we have coming out?
So from Boom Studios, and this one's kind of personal for me, it is Orcs being written and illustrated, by Christine Larson. So it's basically just a fun little like D&D inspired story, but a little cartoony and a little just fun. And it's about these orcs that are just running around and causing chaos and having adventures. Feels very Rat Queens inspired, which I'm excited about. And it's orcs, and orcs are my favorite race to play in D&D, and orcs don't get enough love. I fucking love orcs. Like orc babes, man. Orcs are my jam. I've always played an orc. Will never go to anything other than an orc. But this book is special for me because I went to school for graphic design and like semi-illustration, even though I wasn't very good at it. And Christine Larson came to speak at my school like 10 years ago. And I just remember being infatuated with her art and with her process. And I feel like it was her like meeting and me being able to talk to her and being a part of her presentation that kind of put in the seed of my head that I want to get into comics, and then I wanted to go to a comic shop and to pick up comics. So now I'm sitting here on a live show talking about Christine Larson's comic and getting people excited for Christine Larson's comic. And it kind of feels like I've come like full circle with my little comic book adventure journey. So I am picking up every single fucking cover. I'm picking up the Sweeney Boo cover. I'm picking up the Christine Larson cover. I've already put it on my pull list. And Orcs, I know, is something she's had in the works for a while now. Because I believe she did it as a webcomic first, and now it's finally being picked up by Boom. So if you're a fan of Rat Queen, if you just love fantasy adventures, I would even go so far if you like Die, but you don't want a serious Die. If you just want like a fun D&D adventure, pick up Orcs from Boom Studios. That one is coming out in February. Also coming out in February from Volt Comics, because you know we have to talk about Volt Comics.
I have to talk about Volt Comics, like contractually obligated to talk about
Volt Comics. So before I get into the title that's been announced, Volt Comics has been teasing and comic book announcements for the past like weeks or so. And they're just teasing the creative teams. And some of these creative teams are really, really great. I'm really excited. We're getting Ram V back into Volt Comics with an original series. So Jen's already got her money on that book. But the one thing that they did announce is Hollow Heart, which comes out in February. And it is queer monster romance. I'm excited.
Like, I don't even know anything else about it other than like queer monster romance. And I'm here for it. Like
I'm banging on Volt Comics Store, and I'm like, all right, where's the review copies? Because you guys are always here like 2 months ahead with the review copies. I need Hollow Heart, please. Gimme. But it's basically like a guy in a suit. So it's a guy that is like lost all will to live, or limbs or whatever. Think Anakin Skywalker. He's basically a stub, I think. And he is in this like mechanized suit, and he's kind of this like monstrous suit monster thing. And then there's this engineer that comes in to kind of help fix him up and everything. And they fall in love, I guess. I don't know. I'm here for weird queer monster romance in space. Like
weird queer
to sum up 2021 for me.
Romance in space. 100%.
Weird queer monster romance in space. So that is coming from Volt Comics in March. In suits. Or no, I'm sorry, that's in February. In March, we have Shadecraft from Image Comics. Shadecraft is supposed to be about a girl who is afraid of her own shadow, or afraid, I believe it's, she's afraid of her own shadow because her shadow does mystical, magical, bad time things. I don't know. They described this book as if you like Something is Killing the Children, then you have to pick up this book. And I was like, okay. And that is a pet peeve of mine, is it feels like, and tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like with a lot of solicitations now, it feels like everything is trying to be Something is Killing the Children.
I think so too. And it makes me not necessarily mad because Something is Killing the Children didn't get enough press when it came out. So no one was really aware of it. And then it came, at least that's what it felt like for me.
I agree.
And then not a lot of copies were ordered when it first came out. So then it all of a sudden becomes this hot book. And I feel like it really, really became a hot book after the first volume came out. And I'm like, where were all of you when issue 2, 3, 4, 5 were coming out? And then the first volume comes out, and it's obviously a really hot book. It's for good reason. It's a good book. So I feel like maybe sometimes I do the same thing because I'll be like, oh, this book reminds me of Dune. And so that's easily like, you could say anything is related to Dune and I'll be like, okay, I'm buying it.
Yeah, and honestly, that is what an elevator pitch is. Like when you're in a comic book shop and working in a comic book shop, you typically describe things as things that already exist or things that people have already read or like to kind of get them excited. But I feel like this is the opposite, where rather than it just being an elevator pitch, it feels like everybody's just trying to say, oh, this is Something is Killing the Children, or it's also publishers trying to push more books like Something is Killing the Children because they saw how wildly successful it was. So now they're willing to take the chance on all of these weird sort of horror books that they normally wouldn't have before. And it's like, buddy, I would have bought weird horror books before Something is Killing the Children. Like now you're just trying to make money off of it. So weird kind of like taste in my mouth seeing it, because it felt like with reading the past 3 solicitations for January, February, and March, it felt like there was half a dozen titles or so describing themselves as Something is Killing the Children. But I'm still ridiculously excited for this title. Again, that one was called Shadecraft from Image, which is coming in March. And then the last book I have on my list is from Ablaze Comics. Now, they're a smaller publisher, and Ablaze, the only thing I really know from them is they recently published Unsacred, which is the really weird Mirka Andolfo webcomic that had a really cool concept. I like the idea of a devil and an angel falling in love and them having like a weird romantic thing, but then it ended up turning into just this weird sort of slice of life. Every page is a different comic. It felt very Sunday news strip to me, so I was a little disappointed, I guess, because I was expecting something more, something different. However, Maria Lovett, who we love from Faithless, from Heartbeat. Was it Heartbeat that she did? Mm-hmm. She's also going to be doing, I believe it's called Luna from Boom Studios Comics, which is supposed to be like 70s psychedelic cults. I probably should have talked about that. Sorry, that comes out. Okay, so let's backtrack. So February, we get Luna from Boom Studios. It is another Maria Lovett written and illustrated book. And I feel like she is becoming this sort of like hot artist writer, kind of like Mirka Andolfo and or Peach Momoko, where it feels like she is getting book deal after book deal after book deal. And some of them have been hit or miss, but I just love her art style so much that I'm willing to pick up anything that has her name on it, especially when Brian Azzarello is not attached to it. That is a plus. But Luna is supposed to be 1970s hippies getting involved with mystical magical cults. Not only that, but Luna has a variant cover by Jenny Frisian. So it's like,
okay, picking that up, like done. Done.
So that's in February, and then in March, Maria Lovett is doing another self-titled series, or not self-titled, but written and illustrated by her from Ablaze Comics, called Eros and Psyche. And I feel like this is a play off of the Greek mythology in terms of the names.
That's what
but it is
like.
Literally women in like this weird Catholic-esque type school who fall in love. So it's gay. And I'm like, I'm here for the gay. There's also a cover for those of you that love her work. And I guess, can we say simp on this channel who simp over Mirko Andolfo? Because there is a cover for Mirko Andolfo fans. There's also a cover for Maria Lovett fans. So, that's another one that I feel like might be really, really good. And I'm all here for the queer representation. Not to mention, when Maria Lovett does sexy books, she really does sexy books. And I really appreciate that. And like I said, because it's from Ablaze Comics, I feel like that one's going to be kind of like pushed under a rug and forgotten about. So with these smaller indie comic ones, y'all definitely got to pre-order them because your shop might not have them.
Your shop is probably not going to have them. Make sure that whenever you see, like if you do see it in previews, make sure that you keep an eye on that like final order cutoff date, because that's the day that your shop needs to order it by. And you're right, especially when it comes to publishers like Ablaze, that could easily fall off my radar pretty easily, even though I love like indie comics and that's what I'm usually picking up. If it's not, usually I'll pick up almost anything by Image, anything by Boom, Dark Horse, but Ablaze is one of those that's sometimes hit or miss with the quality. But Maria Lovett, I'm here for it.
She's a bookseller.
I feel like Faithless, I enjoyed the first arc, but then the second arc, I've hated like every single issue with the exception of her artwork. Like her artwork is just, it's beautiful. I also do like the filthy Tula Lotte covers. So.
And the Jenny Frisian filthy covers and the Becky Cloonan filthy covers. Listen, I hate that book. I read the first Faithless. I really enjoyed the concept of it, but I'm sorry, Brian Azzarello should not be allowed to write queer women. Men should not be allowed to write queer women unless you're Stefan Sajic.
Right.
Greg Rucka.
Greg Rucka.
Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference with Greg Rucka writing women and then Brian Azzarello and Stefan Sajic. I feel like I'm always pronouncing his name wrong. But with them writing, they were writing filthy queer female characters. Greg Rucka was just writing characters that happened to be queer. And we've got Brian Azzarello who writes it for the sake of a fetish and a stereotype. And then we've got Stefan Sajic who actually did time and research and turned what could have been a really filthy stereotype into a really, really heartwarming book. So, Brian Azzarello on that book turned me off, but those covers, let me tell you, the Tula Lotte, the Becky Cloonan, I'm here for more comic creators drawing filthy comics. And that's how this is going to sound really bad. Can I talk about that on this channel? So
please.
I spent 2021 doing like, not research, but it popped up. So it led me to do research into like really weird 70s and 80s comic erotic comics, and like you see that from a lot of like European comic illustrators as they get really weird and really bizarre, but at the same time in a way very tasteful. It's just very interesting to me, so I feel like that's going to be my 2021 goal, is to search and find more of those books and buy them because they're just fun to look at.
I do wish that Varangian Vigilante was in the comments right now, because he is like an expert on all of these things. He has introduced me and just like blown me away with so many of these artists. The thing that does stink though, because he's recommended so many, is that because they are a little bit more obscure, their books are really hard to find, and when you can find them, they're like $100-$200 each. So.
I just wouldn't mind seeing more, like, this is gonna sound weird, but like erotic, sex positive comics. We'll put it that way. Because I mean, let's look at like books like Sex Criminals and books like even SFSX that necessarily weren't like romantic sex books, but still had those aspects to them. I mean, Sunstone is another one, you know, where it's very, very spicy, but at the same time, very, very wholesome. And I don't know, I would like to see more comics like that, especially when you think about some of these variants that we've gotten. You know, we already talked about the variants from Faithless, but Sex Criminals, when they did their variants, like they had Jen Partel variants, they had a Kevin Wada variant, and I'm like, can I just get more of this all the time? Like, comic creators, listen, you can make bank by drawing spicy artwork, okay? And most of them do, which I think is really, really funny, is it feels like a lot of artists, because we see it with Babs Tarr, we see it with Paulina Ganashu. I can never pronounce her name, but I can spell it for you. But she has done one. Chris Anka, Babs Tarr, they all have Patreons where they post their spicy artwork. And I'm like, all right, y'all know what you're doing. You're making that dumb bitch money, basically, because I am the dumb bitch who is giving you money to see the spicy artwork.
Yeah. Especially like if we could get more covers like that, like more not necessarily mainstream titles, but that I could pick up at the store instead of going somewhere else.
This is basically Jen's plug for Batman Year 18 again. Every show, it's a plug for Batman Year 18.
Listen, I'm going to pitch it in case anyone hasn't heard it yet. We've got Batman Year 1. We've got Batman Year 100. We need Batman Year 18, barely legal. I'm here to write it. I'm here to write filthy Batman and really make it filthy. So DC, I know you watch. Just give me the chance.
Give us the chance, for sure.
So we're about at the hour and a half mark. We went over so much. You know, we talked about the wrap up for December. We talked about the books that we're picking up this week. We talked about Future State, and not just Future State, but then Frontier.
Infinite Frontier.
And then also just some other, like, all of the cool things from indies that are coming out. So seriously, there's so much coming out. I can't wait to buy all of it and spend all this stupid money on it.
We're starting 2021 strong.
100%. I hope that another pandemic doesn't make its way, because the pandemic kind of fucked up a lot of things that I was excited about to go into comic book stores and comic conventions. So, so I know that yesterday you filmed some things, hopefully going to be on your channel. Do you want to talk about them? I do have links for your channel as well as your Patreon in here below, so go follow your girl. But what's coming up on your channel?
So I'm finally feeling like I'm in like a zone where I want to create. I went through all of December not creating, not filming. I even had a really fun shop tour for Third Eye Comics. It has literally just been sitting on my computer that needs to be finished. But now that we're in 2021 and the holiday stress is over, I'm getting back into the thick of it. So that film tour for or store tour for Third Eye Comics is still coming, because it's one of my favorite shops on the East Coast. But I filmed yesterday a small little wrap up of comics I read in 2020, and the books that made me happy and helped me through 2020 per se, because it was a rough year and comics were really there for us. And then I just happened to film another what I've been reading, because I feel like even though I wasn't creating content, I was still reading a lot and consuming a lot of comics that I wanted to talk about. So even though it's going to be a couple weeks late, I still wanted to be able to talk and upload, and it's just fun to get back in the editing chair. So really excited for that.
I'm excited because as someone who like hates editing, like this is easier like to do streams. So like streams are just kind of where I'm at right now. I do love a little bit of the editing process, at least seeing the finished product, but like up until then just doesn't get me.
It's a lot of work, and I'm gonna put you guys on a little secret, because I always get asked where I got my editing skills from. The girl in middle school used to do a lot of dumb Final Fantasy music video edits and anime music edits that I used to upload when YouTube was just a wee baby. So that is my secret, is I have been editing for 10 plus years.
Okay.
And very interesting start.
Okay, so now I need to find those videos, is what you're saying. For me, like, you can basically find me here. If you're not already subscribed, please like, subscribe, do the things, like and subscribe on Mars's channel. You can find me on, like, basically here on Sundays, here on this channel Sunday morning. But then you can also find me on Friday earlier in the day. You can find me talking with Comic Chop News. We also do a monthly book club, and I think we're going to go in for our Dune book club, where we're going to read the second book. We're going to read Dune Messiah. But then you can also find me later in the day on Fridays with Hero and the Kid. All of those are down below, so go like and subscribe them too.
Jen is secretly multiple man, and she spreads herself amongst a million different channels to give you all the comic books.
I try, and you can usually find me like in other people's like lives commenting. You can find me in the comment section every single Saturday morning with John's Comics with Kids. Every Saturday morning I'm there trying to eat a bagel with his daughters. So, and then you can find Luna here on this couch every single time I do any type of stream.
Luna needs his own Instagram.
He does. I've been thinking about making him an OnlyFans.
I would subscribe to the OnlyFans.
Yeah, only Luna fans, because he's a cutie there. So, well, alrighty, folks. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Visit your local comic book store and
take it easy today, because everybody's got to go back to work on Monday.
I've got to go back to work in like half an hour. So, okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.